When I was younger, I used to dream about who I was going to marry one day. Was he going to be strong, handsome, funny, my strong protector? Well, I feel like I got all of those in my spouse, or so I thought. First, before I get into my story, let me tell you a little bit of a background about me. I am 33 years old and I've been married to my husband for 11 years. We have 3 wonderful children, a girl and 2 boys, 8, 6, and 3. I've lived in Colorado for about 15 years. Even though I live in a city now, I am not a city girl. I grew up in the mountains of Nevada, and if you blinked, you would miss it. To put a little bit into perspective for you, I graduated with about 18 kids in my high school class, and that included myself. In 2005, actually. I've always been outdoorsy, but I wouldn't say I'm crazy adventurous. I like to go camping, hiking, and just being outdoors in general. I've never been really worried about wildlife. If you leave them alone, they leave you alone. I once saw a mountain lion, but he was so far away from me that I don't even know if that counts as anything. I grew up around a lot of snakes, spiders, scorpions, and snakes, they let you know when they're around, so it's not too bad. There's one particular animal, though, that I'm deathly afraid of that we don't have in Nevada. And people told me in Colorado that I was irrational and that I would never run into a bear because they had never run into a bear. Well, what do you know? They were wrong. I want to share with you today a story of how I came into contact with a bear one night, not once, but twice. It was a beautiful, warm day in August when my husband and I, along with our pups, packed up our little Nissan Frontier and headed into the mountains in Golden Gate Canyon State Park. So I was looking forward to relaxing and getting some fresh air because I was heavily pregnant and I was about ready to pop. As we pulled up to our camping spot, I was super grateful for what God had created for us. The leaves were changing and it was just beautiful. Our camping spot had a tent pad and then it was lined with railroad ties, and there was about a half a foot drop on one of those sides. We also had a beautiful meadow, and first there was trees and then there was a meadow beyond that, and we had a fire pit. We just spent that day carving walking sticks and playing with our dogs and reading books. We decided to have a fire and then we called it a night. As we got into our tent, we actually had cot for 2, and our heads were up against that drop off. So we went to bed, and all of a sudden we were awakened by our dog Toby, our basset hound, howling. And all of a sudden we could see this large animal push up against our tent, and we literally could hear it breathing through our canvas of that tent. So as you can imagine, it was pure chaos. I was trying to get up off the bed. I couldn't. I felt literally like a turtle who had fallen on his back and was trying to right himself. And I finally got up and I grabbed my dog off the ground, and he was about inches from the tent wall where that bear was. And I look over and my husband is literally stiff as a board like this, just completely stiff, not moving. And my German Shepherd Blue had actually pushed himself in between the tent and the cot where my husband was and was growling, trying to save him or protect him. And it all happened so fast, and then all of a sudden it was over and the bear went back into the meadow. Well, what do you know? After that, we got the dogs calmed down, and all of a sudden I had to pee. I told myself, not at a time like this, Alicya, you cannot do this. You're in survival mode. Going outside would be a terrible idea. Well, I still had to go because, you have to do what you have to do. So we decided to go outside, and I went to the bathroom in the bush, not in the bushes, in the middle of the road. And we raced back inside, and no sooner had we come inside that the bear came right back. And it was like Groundhog's Day. Everything happened all over again, except this time the bear went on into the campsite more. And we knew its destination because we could hear a lady screaming with pots and pans, and she was banging around, and she was yelling for the bear to get out of there. Well, needless to say, it was a really hard night, but we survived. So the next morning, we learned from the ranger that had we not had the dogs there to deter them, that it would have been really bad for us. And the woman who was banging her pots and pans left out her food. And so that's why the bear had come through that campsite. We walked over in the morning to find that bear had ripped off her green minivan door. So in all of this, I hope that you're able to get to know a little bit about me and my background, and now know why I made my husband after this buy a camper so that this kind of incident would never happen to us again. I learned 2 things from that night that I never knew. That number 1, that my husband was not my strong protector, and that I am my knight in shining armor. And that 2, my dog Blue does not care if I lived or died. He cared 100% about my husband, and that breaks my heart. And that is my background and story. Thank you. And then we'll turn it around to my father-in-law, my daughter Avery, and my husband, Brian and Paul. There you go. Get in there. There you go. Thank you.